Hello, everybody. Um, I'm Matt Sherman, author of Creative Studio. I'm glad to be here today to give you a demonstration of Creative Studio. I'm going to just generally go through things through the software, and I'll take questions at the end, specific things people would like to see more about. I'm getting a comment that says, "Is there sound? Can people hear me?" Hello, everybody. This is Matt Sherman, author of Creative Studio. I'm doing a live stream on Creative Studio 7.1.0. I see one comment, someone saying that they couldn't hear. Hopefully you can hear okay. If someone could write in the comments real quick, let me know. While we're waiting for that comment, I'll mention you'll know which version of Creative Studio you're in by going to Help and then About. And here you'll see where right below it says Creative Studio version 7.1.0, written by Matt Sherman. That's me. And, oh, okay, yeah, I'm seeing comments that they can hear. Okay, super duper. All right. So, let's see where to start. I guess since we were in Help, we'll start there. In Creative Studio is a manual that we had written that I was heavily involved in the content of. In fact, that little wizard icon I think is supposed to look like me. If you have any questions, it's a good place to go. There are videos embedded in there. Let me see if I can just pick one up at random. So border corner, yeah, there's probably a video here. If you click the video at the bottom, it comes over, and it opened up on my other screen, so I'm going to move it over. It comes up inside Pattern Cloud. We keep all the videos there under Education Creative Studio, and it automatically goes to the specific feature that you clicked inside the manual. So here we have a video on border corner. Okay, so that's a really useful resource that I think is underutilized. Both the manual and those help videos are very important to review. Keyboard shortcuts are really useful. This is actually linking to a specific place in the manual, actually page 81. But it just links to those, not the entire manual. And it goes through and it tells you the keyboard shortcuts for most of the functions in Creative Studio. Can be quite helpful. The list is mostly down here. in this grid. The video manual links to the page we'd already talked about on Pattern Cloud. The about we already talked about. The submit idea is goes to again to CreativeStudio. I'm sorry, to Pattern Cloud, and then you pick a category of where you want to give feedback, the subject, the message, and then that comes to myself and other people in the company. So we're always looking for your ideas. In fact, CreativeStudio and all our products are designed by you all, and your desires and your wishes heavily influence the direction that we go with the software and products that we develop. License agreement is just a standard license agreement. Contact your dealer, gives you information on that. I'm not connected to my Stitcher right now, so because I'm at home, like probably most of you, so we can't do some of these things. But calibrate, there's calibrate all, and underneath that you can calibrate the individual features. Usually, just calibrate all covers it all. Occasionally, support might ask you just to calibrate your needle. If you're having problems with single stitch or something like that, it seems like it's slightly off, or you're getting 2 stitches at once, they might have you do a calibrate the stitcher motor. Oil stitcher is a routine that will run your machine backwards at varying speeds for 7 minutes. Inside technical support is controller definitions. And in here, this first page is pretty useful. In fact, you really should be setting this to your desired global settings. Every project that you create from now on, and every pattern that you add will inherit from these values. And in fact, I'll dig into that a little bit now. So if I change the speed to 15, and let's just for ease, let's change the stitches per inch to 15 so we can remember it. And I hit File, Save and Close. Now I have not created a new project, so let's see what the old project information was. See, it's 13 and 12 like it was in the global settings. But if I say new project, or any new project from now on, it should say 15 and 15, and it did, 15 and 15. So that's where those values come from for your projects. And then when you add a pattern, which I just did by double clicking that pattern, and you go properties, it inherits from the project. So if you wanted to create a project that was different than your global values, you wouldn't actually have to go out and change it in your global values. You could change it right here in the information settings. Say you wanted to go down to 12 and 12. Then any patterns you add from then on that project, and then let's add the mask. When you go in and look at the properties, it'll be those properties. So this is the highest level of inheritance. This would be basically like your grandparents, the controller definition. The project would be the next level, and that's in this little, in the project tab, the I. And then the pattern has its own level of inheritance. You can come in and you can change the pattern before you actually use it. I'm going to change that to 11 and 11. And we go in and look at that, right click, pattern properties. You see 11 and 11. This other one, view properties, is 12 and 12. So when we pull it over, it's 12 and 12. It can be useful to have things at different stitches per inch. Let's duplicate this pattern. View properties. We're going to change this name. We're going to sew this one really big, so we're going to make this one 10, 10. It might be a good idea to rename it. There we go. And this one, we're going to sew really small, so we're going to make it like 18. I'm sorry. We got in the habit of changing the speed and the SPI. Normally you don't do that. I was just doing it to demonstrate the change and make it more obvious. I should have renamed that while I was in there. This is Beach 11. You have to click off to see the name change. Sorry, that was SPI 10. This one is 18. Click off, it changes. Okay, so now we have 10 at the top, 18 at the bottom. We're going to look at pattern properties. SPI of 18. Top one, SPI of 10. Having different SPIs for the same pattern is important. Once my wife and I entered a quilt show, and we got knocked off because we were using the same pattern throughout, but all different sizes, all the way from like 2 inches up to like 12 inches for the same pattern. And the judge said that our stitch length was inconsistent. And I was like, gosh darn it, it's not. But visually it appears that way because it was a meander. And when the pattern was really small at 12 SPI, it kind of looked like stop signs going around the meander. But when it was really big, it looked nice and smooth. So visually, it does sometimes make sense to have different SPIs for the same pattern in different situations. So that's why this was developed that way. And then the lowest level, which I guess would be like if your children, to continue the analogy, is you can right click and change right at the individual pattern. In fact, you can rubber stamp that same pattern, and they're all, if we go in and look at the pattern properties, they're all 18, but maybe for some reason we want this one to be 15, so we can change it. And there we go. Okay, so that's pretty much everything to do about inheritance. Diagnostics is an area that support may have you enter sometime. The rest of this stuff I'm just going to kind of skip. It really has only to do with support help. Underneath stitch, the main things you might want to do virtual stitch out is we'll show you how the needle's going to move. F2 on the keyboard does the same thing. the it can be useful to change the power assist on and off, the laser on and off, the needle on and off, stitch and points on and off. You can actually change stitch and points while it's sewing. Thread break, I'm pretty sure you can change while it's sewing also. The rest of them you have to change when it's not sewing. You can also get into regulated, constant, and base through these menu items. And I should say that you can also, every one of these menu items are also available through tool strip items, which just to kind of reinforce that, I'll show you that real quick. Say I don't have regulated, I do have hand guided, which has a drop down, which includes the regulated, based, and constant speed. But let's say I didn't want that. I really wanted to just have regulated and customize my, sorry, I right clicked and hit customize menu. I meant to right click and hit customize tool strip. Try to slow down here a little bit. So you can right click anywhere in these open spaces on the menu strip, which is the red bar at top, and the tool strip, which is this gray bar. So then you can hit customize tool strip. And I don't want the hand guided, so you can just click and drag it over if you want, or you can also click the arrows. So let's see. We want regulated. There it is. And we're going to push it over, but it adds it to the end, so I really don't want that. So I'm going to put it back where I want it. Is the first one before my mode stop, so I'm going to click and drag it. I missed by a little bit. There we go. So you can drag these icons around for the tool strip and the menu strip. And a good reason to have it, the regulated, be right before the mode strip, is that if you press stop and hold it on your keypad and then mode, it goes backwards. So you can be at it within one click. So a feature that you use a lot would make sense to be at the mode stop, or maybe 2 positions before the mode stop. And then also, of course, the features you use most would be at the beginning of the tool strip. And of course, you can move your mode stop and take icons out. If you never use draw trim, it would probably make sense just to remove it. You can specialize this menu and the tool strip in many ways. Something not a lot of people know about is that you can remove the icon names after you've used the software for quite a while. You feel like you know it pretty well. You can just remove those, and that's how that looks. I personally prefer it with the names. Okay, so just to make sure we kind of cover everything, I'm going to continue working through this menu strip. Okay, so in pattern, we have combined patterns, and the way that works is if I pick 2 patterns, let me demonstrate. Each of these are individual patterns, right? I'm going to highlight all 3 of them, combine patterns, and now they are one pattern. Convert change is a quick way to change a pattern to a boundary. So that there is a more robust convert, which I'll show you probably later, that goes through the lots of different modes or lots of different ways of changing things. So flip horizontal, is also X on your keyboard. And it will point out most of the time the hotkeys are shown right there on the menu strip over to the right. The vertical is Y. Mirror allows you to mirror upon any line. You can see that's about a 45-degree mirrored image. The handles, I usually will double click or hit these function keys. It's good to have these memorized, especially the ones you use a lot, so that it's fast to get to. So nodes is a popular one if you wanted to change the endpoint of where a pattern was or make it connect up. You could do that. And so that's the F7 key. F9 to switch back to the edge anchors. So we have F8 is a universal anchor. I'm going to get on a new cult group just to so we can zoom in a little easier. So again, F7 was nodes. F8 is universal anchor. This is the edge anchor. The center anchor. Come over to the side here, which keeps the pattern centered. And then the let's see, it's called I always forget because it used to be called something different. The stretch anchor. Originally I called it warp, and I always kind of think of it as that because it kind of warps the pattern, but it's stretch. And then there's order join. Let's see, how's the best way to demonstrate that? I'll draw some arcs. I'm drawing that one, and then I'm coming back. Then we use endpoint snap to draw this that way. And if I virtual sew that, which is going really, really slow, so I'm going to hit plus to speed it up. And I don't know if you hear the beeps, but the beep is there so that you know that there's a jump stitch. Whenever you, so that audibly you know there's a jump stitch, because sometimes it might be really small, like anything. I believe it's below 20 SPI is considered a jump stitch. So let's see. Yeah, I think it's a little bigger than that. I think it's a little bigger. That comes out to 0.05 inches. I kind of remember that it's about around a tenth of an inch that it'll stop and jump. But anyway, obviously it wouldn't make sense to sew it like that. So what you would use is order join to fix that. So you click the first pattern that you want to start with, and then you hit order join, and it will change the direction and the order of these so that it'll sew continuously. Now if I hit F2, you see no beep, and visually you can see that it sews along continuously. So let's see. Reverse starting in. Let's combine this pattern. And you can see the start is here on the left and the end is on the right. So I'm going to reverse starting in. And now the start's on the right and the end's on the left. Rotate, space bar rotates, I think it's, negative. And there's also 9 and 0, which not a lot of people know about. So 0 and 9. This is a really hard pattern to tell which direction is which. Let me grab this one. 0, 9. Okay. Well, not a lot of people know that you can come in and there's kind of a hidden way of changing the rotation angle because it's always 90, and 90 is sometimes useful in quilting, but if you're doing custom work or various other things, it's sometimes useful to move in smaller ways. I can come over and grab this handle and move things. But it's kind of hard to, it's a little clunky to move. It kind of depends on the smoothness of how well I move. So something I like to do is I'll come in and change. And what I've done is I'll right click the pattern and the rotate angle is set to 90. And here you can change it and it changes it everywhere. And if I remember right, I think you can put a decimal in there. Let me try. Yeah. So this is a half a degree. I don't know if you can read that, but it's 0.5 degrees. So now we hit 9. It's going positive rotation. And 0 is going negative rotation. I'm sorry, I'm saying that backwards. This is positive rotation. This is a negative rotation. I guess it depends on which end of the pattern you're looking at. Anyway, rubber stamp we already showed. Set sew order. We'll show you there's numbers on every pattern. It's kind of hard to see overall. I'm gonna just draw a couple arcs here. Okay, pattern, set sew order. It's also F4 because it's a function key because it can be used quite a bit. So you can see it's pattern 0 is on the left, 1 is in the middle, and 2 is on the right. If I wanted to change it to where the first pattern to sew was the middle one, you just click that number and it changes from 1 to 0. Programmers always start counting with 0. So that's the reason the software is this way. So 0 is first. If you want to change the direction of a pattern, you click the other end, the little arrow, and it'll reverse. So I'm going to reverse this first one too. And then when you're happy with it, you just hit F4 again, and we'll hit F2 to watch it sew in the order that we clicked. You don't have to click all the patterns. You can just click like one pattern like we did, and then it'll maintain the order for the rest. So if you only want to change the beginning patterns, which typically, in my experience, is what you want to do, you can do that pretty quick. Although you can go through and I'll click click all 90 if you want, but if you only want to change the order for the first couple, that's all you need to do. Toggle pattern is sewn. Let's say, we're sewing these and we had a thread break or something like that, and somehow this got toggled as its own. What I might want to do is, sorry, I hit the wrong button. I converted it. Converted back. Okay, so although convert would work too to make it not sew, because it's not going to sew a boundary, obviously. But I'm going to go under pattern, toggle pattern as sewn, and it turns red. And now when I hit F2, it will skip that one. Under draw, we have draw boundary. Oh. Okay, so this could be like, here all I can do is click to the endpoints. I had my endpoint snap clicked. So what you want to do is click E on your keyboard, or you can click the under this little arrow here, you can turn endpoint on and off right here by clicking that, and you can actually see what's on. So right there, it's got the check on endpoint. So I turned that off, and you can see that actually snap turned off altogether. Another thing you could do is, so now I can click out here in space. Another thing you can do is just to S. And since nothing was on, both turned on. Now endpoint and grid are on, so you can see it's snapping to my endpoints and it's snapping to my grid points. And then you can just turn them all individually off, or you can just turn it all off with S. So if snap's getting in the way, S is a quick way to just turn it all off. Okay, so that's how you draw a boundary, and it'll always close back to itself. It always makes a closed object. If you want to make an open boundary, here's a trick. You go down to draw a line. There's a line, the sewable line, and then I'm going to convert it to a boundary. So now you have an open boundary. Draw trim is the next in line. It won't sew where the trim is, obviously. Draw curve. Draw curve actually came up because I thought when we first started doing arc, that's what people wanted, but actually they were like, no, that's not right. So, but they liked it, and so we kept it, and kind of makes a amorphous line. So draw freehand. You can try to write my name. My table's kind of wiggly. You really need a good solid surface to write on. It's a little easier to do draw freehand from the head of the machine. And with all of these, let me point out, starting with 7.0, you can start drawing on the CAD and then switch over to the head and then switch over to the mouse, back and forth. You can start drawing an arc and click a few points on the CAD and then go to the head for one and then come back and use the mouse. And then the draw pattern is, find a good pattern that would be good for draw pattern. This one. So draw pattern, you just you basically are drawing with a pattern instead of a line. And then draw text. Yeah, let me set up the draw text a little better. Bear with me a minute. Draw boundary. Draw an arc. So draw text. Okay. So if you have a boundary selected, it'll automatically fit into the boundary like a pattern. So the more I type, the smaller it gets to fit. Well, actually, that'd be a good way to show. So, you can turn off freeze aspect and it'll stretch to fit. So the more you type, it'll just keep stretching the letters out to keep them in there. It's gotten kind of trapped because of the way this corner is, but if that had been more square, it would have shown better. You can change the font to be different things. I like that one. You can dynamically change to other objects. So here I've picked this arc and it's placed the text on it. And here you can set the text height. Fill path. I'm going to just shrink this down to be smaller to use that. I'm going to take the word hello off. Oops. Delete and head focus on the arc. Let me change this real quick. Okay. So if I wanted that on there twice on the arc, you'd hit fill path. And there it is. And so it'll just repeat whatever phrase or word you have along the path. Something that's kind of neat is you can find fonts that are various shapes and patterns and stuff like that, and you can use them and turn them into things. So this is Webdings. All right, and then you can also dynamically click out on the open CAD screen, and the pattern will move over there. Which I'm not sure why it's taking so long. And there it goes. And if it's spinning, just give it time. Sometimes it takes a while for it to crunch the numbers. You'll notice it's set on italic, and maybe I want regular instead. And nodes are on. Yeah. Hit OK. Oh, I'm sorry. Those are all the jump points. Lots of jump points sometimes on these Webdings. Oh, somehow I got that on there twice. But anyway, so lots and lots of jump points are showing it. If you don't want to see the jump points, I believe there's only one way to turn those off, and that's right-click. It's under Options, and then you can turn off the Show Jumps. But if you needed a stadium or a cityscape for a quilt, it might be worth the pain of the jump stitches, or you can go in and delete off some of the the elements of it to make it a simpler shape. You can go in and connect the pieces, use order join, kind of make it into something that's continuous. And there are some dings fonts out there that are continuous. Okay. Let's see. I didn't show you draw font or draw cursive, but basically it's the same thing. You just pick cursive and it's a continuous font. It's something that Paul Statler and I developed a few years back. Okay, and then we have features like apply pattern. So you're going to pick a line, you pick a pattern, apply pattern, and then it warps it or stretches it around the arc. Border corner. I'll go ahead and show that. And again, if you're just now catching up, I'm going all the way through the menu strip, and I kind of started on the right and went forward toward the beginning. All of these features are you can get through right-clicking a pattern or by using the menu strips or tool strip, and typically you're going to get there by right-clicking or using the menu or tool strip because it's a little faster. I'm going through this way because I don't want to skip any features. I will pick a corner pattern. I'm going to take, and I'll use the advanced search, and I will pick corner. And it shows the patterns or corners. So I'll add this one to my project, and I'll add this one to my project. Go over to my project, I have it. It works a little nicer, although it doesn't really matter. If you pick the corner pattern and border pattern to start with, well, I guess it does matter. You couldn't, like here, I'll start with the beach. I'll just make a mistake. So I'm going to go in and pick border corner. And when I say it doesn't matter, you can fix it later. So here I'm going to hit grid snap. Normally you would not do that. In fact, it will mess you up. Although the grid snap won't work with the clicks from the head, so I guess it won't mess you up too bad. But if you're just doing it from at home, you'd want to have a grid snap on. And even though this is just a sample, I do kind of like to have the size be kind of normal. So this is 5. Each grid snap is 5, 10, 15, 20. So we'll say we have a 20-inch we can fit in the throat of our machine. As you click the points, I'll point out, and there's a little image here that shows where you should be clicking and how your quote should be set up, stuff like that. It's helpful. There's also, in any one of the setups, there's a message in the upper right. It tells you where to click. Right now, I should be clicking the lower left outer corner using the machine head or mouse. It says the same thing in the bottom left. So if you ever get lost or confused, slow down, read those messages, watch those images that we have there, and put them all to help. And we're going to the inside corner, and you can see the star there has changed to the inside corner. Okay, and even though Creative Studio doesn't care what patterns you pick, it will go ahead and put them in place. Put a length of 50. Okay, so then once I've gone to all the trouble of clicking these points, I don't really want to start over again. So all throughout Creative Studio 7.1, you can dynamically change things. So I'm going to say, oh, I meant to pick this corner. and it changes. And then, oh darn it, I forgot the border. So what all I do is I hold the control and I pick the border, and now it's added that. Okay, we have a mistake or a problem. It's not really a mistake. It's just that this pattern is not designed to use the default settings of border corner, and you'll get stuff like this in border corner. We get a lot of people concerned about this, or a lot of calls about this, but it's really easy to change. In fact, there's only 3 things you can change to fix it. There's this connect button, the orientation, and the corner type. All right, this says corner type L-shaped, and so I'm thinking what's going wrong is that this is not an L-shaped corner. The software tried to place it as an L-shaped because that's the default, and a lot of corner patterns are L-shaped. But there's other corner types that are legitimate patterns that designers have made. So we'll change the corner type to square. And still we have a problem. Oh, square oriented. That's a little better. Worst comes to worst, you can turn connect off. But for some reason it is slightly not connecting. But anyway, we can hit OK, and we can check and see if it actually will sew continuous. So I've hit F2. I'm hitting plus to speed it up. I'm going to listen for a beep when it comes to this. And it actually is continuous. But there is a slight gap there. If you wanted to, you could go in and fix this slight gap by hitting F7 with the pattern selected. And I'm going to turn off green snap and just have M snap. And pull those like that. I would do the same thing for the other side. But you don't have to do that, but you could. Okay, so border corner, and by changing just the bottom 2 settings and the connect checkbox, you can make any patterns work. Okay, circular array. The circular array echo edge to edge. I believe most people understand how those work. Fill inside, fill outside. Let me, I will set up an edge to edge real quick. I forgot to put my grid snap on, but I'll just be careful. Okay. And I'm not going to take the time to go through the properties of this, but let's say okay. Now, if we wanted, say we pull this outside like that, fill. So you can fill inside in an edge to edge to kind of trim the edge. You do need, I would suggest you only do one pattern at a time. if you ever click fill and you get long horizontal or vertical lines going across it, it's always 100% of the time because you had multiple patterns selected, and therefore it is trying to connect the pieces. And fill works a lot better if you do individual patterns one at a time. And edge to edge is an example of a place where you might use that. Like you could do something, and I've done this on quilts before, where you stretch this out and you move it a little bit, and every row you can stretch out and move it, grabbing all of them so it goes evenly. And then you just come in and you fill inside on each one of these. And then it kind of gives, you know, a more varied look as you go down through the quilt instead of your standard alternating or your standard grid type layout. Okay, you'll notice that some features like fill outside, pattern to boundary, circular ray, echo are all grayed out. Extra things are grayed out when you're edge to edge because you can mess your edge to edge up if you do any of those things inside of it. If you need to do those things, you need to go and do it somewhere else. Okay. Over in view, we have select all, grabs all the patterns, view all. Well, if I can click it right, causes you to zoom in. The auto view all causes it to automatically zoom in as you work. So if you're doing really tight custom work, you may not want, like, let's see what happens here. There are some features, I can't think what they are right now, where it auto zooms out. So you may want to turn off the auto view all. The view all includes the crosshair. If you want to know where your head is oriented to the work you're doing, you will want that checked, and it'll show the crosshair. The Windows taskbar, to show or not to show. So I click that, and now I've gained almost a ½ inch of total CAD area, but I don't have my Windows taskbar at the bottom. If you want that back, just hit the Window key on your keyboard, and it'll pop up over CS. But often times when you're in CS, you don't need your Windows taskbar, so it's pretty useful to get rid of it to gain that ½ inch. Zoom in, zoom out, zoom 100%. So zoom 100% will zoom to the scale of your that you've set as defined as 100%. And so what you want to do is this grid right here is 5 inches. So I would zoom in until on my monitor, this grid measured 5 inches. And so I would actually hold a ruler up to my monitor to measure it. And then I go in to zoom this little caret, and I go in and set current zoom to 100%. You see right now it's 338%. When I hit that, now it becomes 100%. Now, anytime I want to, I can go in and say view zoom 100%, and it'll zoom to 100%. Or I zoomed in, you can click the word zoom, it'll zoom to 100%. It kind of zooms to nothing unless you have, remember, right, if you have a pattern, select that pattern. If you have a pattern selected, it'll zoom to that pattern at 100%. Pan, right click, these are just menu ways of getting to the same features that you use other ways. Pan, obviously, you use the center scroll wheel push down. Customize menu strip, customize tool strip we've already shown. Undo, most people use Control Z. will move you back in time and undo things. It will remember each quilt group, so I can come in here and undo the things that I've done on that quilt group, or I can hit Control Y and bring them back if you go too far. So you have something selected, and then cut, copy, and paste become available. I can cut that, and I can even go over to my border corner, and I can paste that. Project properties, a little I on the project tab I showed you earlier is also right here. You can start a new project from file. You can open a project and go to recent projects. You can save projects. You can save a project as a different name. You can print the screen that you have right now. So this is fitted to 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and so I can print that. You can import an image like a bitmap. You can export the current screen as a JPEG image. So if you didn't want to actually print on paper, you could basically, it's the same thing, except it puts it as a, is it a JPEG? I can't remember. Oh yeah, JPEG. And so you can save this image as a JPEG and then email it to somebody. Obviously, we do not use email and stuff like that on your tablet computer. It's fine for you to be on the internet, but use your computer, your tablet computer exclusively to connect to Pattern Cloud and to connect to tech support if you needed to connect that way, and to get updates of current versions and of the software. But you would, in this case, copy your JPEG over to a thumb drive and move it to a computer that had email. And you can import patterns. You can go to Pattern Cloud, and then you can exit Creative Studio, or you can use the X in the upper right corner. And then, so that's pretty much the menu items. That's what I was wanting to show you all today. And we're already at an hour, which I think is a little longer than usually these things go. So thanks for bearing with me. If anybody has any questions, I'll take them at this time. Someone asked if there's a bubble type handle that expands in the middle while keeping the edges stable. There's really not. You could go in, you have F7, and if I wanted to raise like this, my snaps on. So whenever it went crazy like that, I just kept my mouse down and then let go, and then I just hit S. So you can dynamically get in and out of it. Yeah, but you can increase and change things. It's not quite what you're asking for, but somewhat similar. There is a stretch which will go to 4 points, but still not quite exactly what you're looking for. If someone asked how they would keep everything as sewn, what you would do is Control A to select everything, and then, or if you were using, it'd be under View, select all, and also Control A, and then let's see. I don't often use menu strip items, but what I would do is right click and toggle group as sewn. Someone asks if there was a possibility to do border corner around um, an entire sashing, and um, I mean, you could lay it out manually. You could do a top and bottom, copy paste them over, or you could take and do half. And get rid of that. Copy, paste, then I hit yeah, spacebar, rotate 90, and then draw a boundary to get your spacing just right, and place it something like that. You could use your F11 to get it an endpoint snap. Get it exactly right. Several people are asking about features and various other things. I will say that we're continually working on new features, and we're continually working on the software. So, as I was saying earlier, there is, if you want to give input as to possible new features, we would very much welcome that. But they all need to come through the help submit ideas. And it'll come up like this, and then you would pick CreativeStudio feedback, put the subject. You might just say idea, and then maybe just a short summary, and then you type your message of what you want. Try to be descriptive as possible about what you're thinking of and what you think would be great. And like I said earlier, most of the features that we have came from ideas from quilters. So we definitely welcome those ideas, and we're continually looking at them. We keep them all in a spreadsheet. And even if you don't see your idea immediately, a lot of times they'll be planned for some time, quite a while. Sometimes you have to build other pieces to get in place to do the thing that's your idea. So, and I thank you all for being with me. I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to me. I know sometimes I can be a bit of a broken wheel when I talk, but I do really enjoy working on this software for you all, and my wife and I are both at least fifth generation quilters, and so it has really been a dream come true for me to be able to work on a product like this for you all, as to build a tool that's used in the quilting world. It's been awesome, and I use it regularly myself, and really enjoy it. Um, in fact, sometimes when I get feedback and then I'm using it, that feedback's bouncing around in the back of my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why they want that. That makes sense. So being a quilter, and me and my wife being quilters ourselves, it's helpful. So you all, I just wish you happy quilting, and go out and be creative. Thank you. Bye.